Star Trek Strange New Worlds Surprise Season 4 Tease features Captain Pike like you've never seen him before. Star Trek Strange New Worlds has always been a love letter to classic Trek, a bold fusion of old-school optimism and modern storytelling. But with a surprise tease for Season 4, it looks like this show is about to push its charismatic lead, Captain Christopher Pike, into territory that no Star Trek captain has ever charted before. The teaser, brief but rich with intrigue, hints at a transformation that could redefine Pike's legacy and the tone of Strange New Worlds itself. If previous seasons explored the spirit of adventure and the balance between duty and humanity, Season 4 looks poised to dive into the personal cost of leadership and the inner fractures beneath Pike's famously calm exterior. And judging by early reactions to the tease, this version of Captain Pike might just be the most complex and dangerous iteration of the character yet. A tease that redefines Pike's path. The teaser, which dropped without warning during Paramount Plus's fall showcase, was only a minute long, but it packed an emotional punch that left fans buzzing. It opens with the familiar hum of the USS Enterprise, but something feels off. The lighting is dimmer, the bridge crew is tense, and Pike, standing at the center, wears an expression that's neither his usual stoic confidence nor his trademark warmth. Then comes the line that sent Trek fans into a frenzy. Greater than sometimes, to save the future. You have to become its villain. In that instant, Anson Mount's Pike feels utterly transformed. Gone is the ever-optimistic captain who believed that empathy and intellect could solve any problem. In his place stands a man visibly haunted, hardened, and perhaps even disillusioned. It's a side of Pike we've only glimpsed in flashes before, but never like this. The teaser ends with a shot of Pike gazing out of a viewport as the Enterprise drifts through a battlefield of ruined ships. His reflection overlays a distant Federation insignia cracked in two. A quiet voiceover follows. The price of knowing the future is becoming part of it. For longtime fans, those words hit hard. Pike's fate, his horrific accident and transformation into a paralyzed figure trapped inside a life support chair, has loomed large over Strange New Worlds since the beginning. Season 4 seems ready to confront that destiny head-on, not as tragedy, but as evolution. From optimist to outlier, Captain Pike has always been portrayed as the quintessential Starfleet ideal, noble, moral, and deeply human. Unlike Kirk's swagger or Picard's diplomatic detachment, Pike leads with compassion and accessibility. He invites his officers to dinner, cooks for his crew, and treats command as a partnership, not a hierarchy. But that strength has always been double-edged. From the moment he glimpsed his own grim future in Star Trek Discovery, Pike has carried an invisible weight. His awareness of his eventual suffering has shaped his decisions, adding layers of quiet melancholy to his otherwise hopeful demeanor. In Season 3, we saw hints of that internal conflict emerging. His decisions grew riskier, his patience thinner. His interactions with Spock and Number 1 carried the subtle tension of someone who knows his time is running out. The finale left him at a crossroads, his crew questioning orders that felt increasingly reckless, and Pike himself wrestling with the fear that his actions might be hastening the very fate he's trying to avoid. Season 4's teaser appears to build on that internal struggle, suggesting that Pike's knowledge of his destiny could finally push him into morally gray territory. Could the man who embodies Starfleet's conscience become its greatest liability? The mirror of destiny. One of the most striking elements of the new teaser is how it visually mirrors imagery associated with the mirror universe, though without explicitly naming it. The lighting, the tone, and even Pike's darker uniform design evoke a world where ideals crumble under the weight of necessity. However, this doesn't appear to be a straightforward, evil Pike storyline. Instead, it looks like the show is exploring a deeper psychological duality, Pike facing a version of himself forged by pain, fear, and the inevitability of his own demise. Fans have already begun theorizing that this new Pike might represent a fractured consciousness, a temporal echo created by Pike's attempts to alter his fate. In other words, Season 4 could explore the terrifying consequences of a man trying to outthink destiny. If true, it would be a fitting thematic culmination for Strange New Worlds, which has consistently blended character-driven storytelling with the existential weight of time and choice. A bold creative shift. Behind the scenes, showrunner Henry Alonso Myers has hinted that Season 4 will take Strange New Worlds into new emotional and philosophical depths. While the series has dabbled in tonal experimentation, from musical episodes to full-on comedic romps, it's also shown a willingness to break hearts. In interviews following the Season 3 finale, Myers and executive producer Akiva Goldsman both emphasized that Pike's story is heading toward inevitable confrontation, not just with fate, but with what leadership means when the cost becomes unbearable. That tone aligns with the teaser's atmosphere, somber, reflective, but filled with moral tension. It's not about making Pike darker for shock value. It's about asking what happens when a man defined by his light must walk through the shadows to preserve that very light for others. The Enterprise feels different too. While much of the teaser centers on Pike, keen-eyed fans notice subtle shifts in the Enterprise itself. The bridge looks slightly redesigned, sleeker, colder, with darker tones replacing the bright optimism of earlier seasons. Even the familiar warp effect feels more turbulent, almost alive. This visual evolution may not just be an aesthetic choice. It could symbolize the growing cracks in Starfleet's idealism. The Federation might be facing threats not from Klingons or Romulans this time, but from internal fractures, political or ideological divisions that test the very core of what the Federation stands for. If Pike finds himself forced to choose between his moral compass and his duty, the Enterprise could become the ultimate metaphor, a ship of exploration caught in a storm of doubt. The return of familiar faces. Though the teaser didn't reveal much about returning characters, a few quick flashes offered tantalizing clues. One shot appears to show Spock Ethan Peck in a Starfleet tribunal chamber, possibly testifying against Pike or defending him. Another frame, barely half a second long, shows Number 1 Rebecca Ramin staring at Pike across a shattered conference table, her expression torn between loyalty and heartbreak. If these glimpses are accurate, Season 4 might pit the Enterprise crew against each other in ways we've never seen. The theme of trust, always central to Strange New Worlds, could fracture under the weight of Pike's secrets and the dangerous choices he may be forced to make. And then there's the voice that closes the teaser, just before the final shot of the broken Federation insignia. Many fans believe it belongs to Admiral April Adrian Holmes, saying, "Chris, I warned you, there's no coming back from this." Whether that refers to a tactical decision, a moral compromise, or a temporal experiment gone wrong remains unclear, but the emotional stakes are unmistakable. Why this could be Pike's defining chapter. From the beginning, Strange New Worlds has been about reclaiming Pike's narrative. Once a tragic footnote in Star Trek lore, he's become a layered, compelling figure, a man whose foreknowledge of suffering drives him to live every day with greater empathy. But the show has also hinted that his optimism might not be enough to escape the gravitational pull of destiny. The Season 4 tease seems to suggest that Pike's journey will finally come full circle, a confrontation between who he is, who he could become, and what the universe demands of him.